Are you and the people around you losing time and energy to digital conveniences, the focus on efficiency and the lack of critical thinking skills? Let me share a few practical ideas in this short video. I'm Bob Wendover. An exercise I have found most helpful when making decisions is to simply write the word options at the top of a page or maybe on the whiteboard when considering what to do. Now, this has two benefits. First, it stops me from limiting my thinking to the first couple of solutions that come to mind. Now, granted, there are sometimes there are only really two, but most of the time there are more options. And second, it compels me to think more broadly and creatively. After all, how many times have we all thought, oh, this is the only way to do something, and then someone comes up with a solution and we think, why didn't I think of that? In recent times, much of our decision-making has devolved because of three factors: menu-driven technology, the deficit of critical thinking skills among those coming of age, and overly efficient decision-making. Now, allow me a bit of explanation on each of these. Menu-driven thinking is essentially an overdependence on the menu-driven technology in which we are all now immersed these days. Digital immigrants such as myself feel constrained lots of times by the limited choices presented for many of the decisions that we try to make every day. But digital natives, on the other hand, having grown up in a menu-driven world, simply accept that the choices presented are really the only ones available. Now, I know I'm making a gross exaggeration here, but you get the point. Then there is the lack of critical thinking skills among those who are coming of age right now. As schools' emphasis has shifted over the time from liberal education to vocational education, more and more emphasis has been placed on the knowledge of content rather than critical thinking. It's been well documented that millions of recent college graduates graduated without substantially improving their critical thinking skills over 4 years, even at the best schools. Why? Well, because the focus is on content rather than process. If curriculums leave no room for students to figure out how to apply what they're learning, how can we expect them to develop the skills and confidence to think critically once they've graduated and come on the job? I've had countless employers complain to me that new hires lack common sense. And what they really mean here is that these newcomers have not developed the skills and confidence to think critically. And sadly, when I ask the employers, what they did to assess critical thinking skills during screening, I get a blank stare in an awful lot of cases. Or maybe something like, well, I gave them a test. But as I've said to countless audiences, being able to pass a test on the principles of critical thinking does not make you a critical thinker. Finally, there is overly efficient decision-making. Now, you might be thinking, well, how can there be such a thing? But with the pace of business these days, many times we feel pressured just to make a decision. Now, you may be thinking, well, that's certainly not me. I take my time. Well, frankly, it is both you and me and pretty much everyone else. We may want to take more time, but with the boss breathing down our back or the customer demanding an immediate solution, it's tough to say, hey, hold your horses. I want to make the best decision I can, right? On top of this, there are the number of decisions we're compelled to make every day. Just purchasing an airline ticket requires more than 20 decisions these days. I know, I've bought lots of them. Simply signing into many apps these days is a 4 or 5-step process between the username and the password and the two-factor authentication, and then, of course, opting out of 2 or 3 pop-up offers as you sign in. And then there's social media, of course. Spend 2 minutes on Facebook and you will probably have made close to 100 decisions about which posts you read or watch. Spend just 15 minutes a day on social media and you will have made close to 10,500 decisions during the entire week. So, as a leader, what can you do to compel those around you to manage the insidious impact of all three of these influences? Well, first, model what you want to see. As the leader, you're under the microscope. So why not put this to good use? How dependent are you on the menus around you? What does that do to your thinking? Making the conscious effort to look past the obvious and encouraging others to do the same will give them permission to expand their creativity. Whether it's in dealing with customers or working through processes or managing the regulatory burden, it's easy to get stuck in stale thinking, isn't it? If they see you working outside of the box, so to speak, they will be encouraged to do the same thing. Second, maintain a focus on the outcomes rather than the tasks and the processes. Over time, all organizations become bureaucracies, and bureaucracies have lots and lots of rules, don't they? Many of which are really not necessary if you look at them. Now, if you don't believe me, ask some random employees whether there are processes that go up the works. Chances are every single one of them will say yes. So here's a simple idea. Place a box in the middle of the workplace and ask people to anonymously identify sand in the gears rules and processes. Now, I say, of course, anonymously for obvious reasons. If you want a great book on how to do this successfully, by the way, read the book The Friction Project by Stanford professors Robert Sutton and Huggy Rao. You'll come away with some great ideas. I know I did. And third, take notice of those within the workplace who seem to have mastered the art of working effectively without getting mired in all of the minutiae around them. Ask them to share their strategies and shortcuts. You might be surprised at what they're doing or perhaps not doing. And then spread the word about these tactics so everyone can benefit. I try to be acutely aware of the subtle strategies people use to manage time and energy. Most of them are simple adjustments to routines that, when added all together, can save hours every single week. What do you do to manage the influence of menu-driven technology and improving critical thinking and discouraging overly efficient thinking that can create mistakes and impact day-to-day productivity? We'd all like to know. Drop your ideas in the comments below and make sure to subscribe to this channel for more practical ideas just like these. I'm Bob Wendover.